I am Mia. I'm 38 years old. I had to relearn a lot of things in my life during the past 2 months, which has been difficult for me. My spouse, Willie, was mostly to blame for the challenges I encountered, but happily, someone kind intervened to prevent me from going through more hardship. Permit me to introduce you to the persons that have shared my trip. Lori, my sister, comes first. She's remarkably attractive and 5 years younger than me. Since I was the stereotypical nerd, and she was the life of the party, we had a lot of arguments when we were younger. She used to make fun of me, and it felt like jealousy underneath all of it. To little effect, our mother attempted to heal the rift between us. Our correspondence decreased after I left for college. But as I grew older, and Lori got into her late teens, we started to get back in touch. Our relationship never really got close, although it did become better with time. In spite of this, I learned to embrace the degree of intimacy we were able to reach. Speaking of my ex-husband Willie, we hit it off right away when we first met at work. We made the decision to get married after 4 years of dating. We bought our first home together. The mortgage and the house deed were in my name because I was the one with a larger income. After we were married for a few years, Willie brought up the subject of having children. He took a cautious approach, hoping I would remain receptive. Willie started, "Honey, I've been thinking, maybe it's time we thought about having a family of our own. We've been together for a while now." I anticipated this discussion. I answered, "Willie, you know my reservations." He gave a nod. "I get it, but give it some thought. We are steady, and it may be amazing to see a variety of us in the wild." I exhaled. "Yes, but there's a lot of work and responsibility involved in raising children." Willie grinned. "And who is more responsible and industrious than us?" This succinct synopsis encapsulates the core of my current circumstances and the individuals who have contributed significantly to them. Even though I wasn't sure I wanted to have children, I couldn't help but comply with Willie's insistence. 4 years after we initially welcomed a son into our family, we then welcomed a girl. Willie was a helpful spouse at first, but things quickly changed around that. All of a sudden, I was responsible for our children's upbringing and our entire household. Willie's work took off after the birth of our first kid. He got promoted, and he started to out-earn me. In order to prioritize our family, he advised that I quit my work. Despite my initial reluctance, I eventually gave in to the constant pressure and adapted to my new full-time parental duty. I began throwing dinner parties to ward off boredom and keep a link to the outside world. These get-togethers, which frequently included my mother, sister Lori, and my mother-in-law Amanda, especially when she was visiting, became a treasured part of my daily schedule. There were consolation in this new chapter of my life. I loved having my family visit and spending more time with my kids. Despite the profound scars from a horrific second child birth that affected our relationship, my relationship with Willie appeared steady. But just when I believed I had settled in, a startling revelation rocked my foundation. I once discovered a pair of women's pants that I knew were not mine when cleaning out our bedroom. My heart fell as I saw them, feeling both shocked and saddened. Had I grown too little for Willie? The timing was especially hurtful because I was still recovering. Not even a year had passed from the birth of our second child and was seeing a therapist to address my postpartum issues. Though they were making modest progress, it seemed like a huge setback, one that left them feeling both betrayed and angry at Willie for perhaps being unfaithful. I required clarification. I took a picture of the pants and emailed it to Willie, requesting a response. I then went to his laptop and used his credentials to browse through his messages on social media. Upon initial observation, nothing seemed unusual. No strange names appeared, which only heightened my bewilderment and mistrust. Excitement mounted as I dug more into his digital life, wondering what else I may uncover. I went through all of Willie's conversations in a desperate attempt to find something, even though I knew deep down that it was implausible. At first, though, I wasn't concerned when my sister Lori's contact ID kept coming up in his chats, because I recognized some of the names that appeared. Why would it be the case? The communication between my spouse and sister shouldn't automatically cause suspicion. However, I followed my instinct and dug a little more, and what I found shocked me. Their messages were replete with declarations of love, sweet films, and private pictures. They even talked about Willie's departure from me. My stomach turned at the shock of my sister's betrayal. Although there were ups and downs in our relationship, I never thought she would harm me to this extent. I tried to approach Willie since I was so sick with hatred and betrayal, but he didn't answer, so I called Lori instead. With a nonchalant response, "Hey, what's up?" "Don't ask me, what's up, Lori? What's wrong with you, really?" My voice quivered with incredulity and rage. She answered incoherently, "I don't know what you mean." "Well, in my bedroom, I discovered a pair of your pants. Have you and Willie been having sex?" I broke into a laugh as I said the words. Her reply was very casual. "Yes, for some time now." "Really, Lori? You believed that sleeping with my spouse was acceptable. Did you find me uninteresting and didn't think twice about being my sister?" She was prepared with an odd explanation. "Look, I believed I was assisting you. Willie was occupied by me so you could concentrate on the children. I couldn't believe what I was hearing." "Are you serious? That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Why would you help tear our family apart?" "I just want what's best for Willie," she said. "Okay, if I'm the best for him, then so be it." Her words were like a slap in the face. "You're disgusting," I spat out and hung up, unable to fathom her audacity. Alone and devastated, I lay in bed, tears streaming down my face as I grappled with the magnitude of the betrayal from the people closest to me. I never imagined my life would unravel like this. As I dealt with the fallout of my discovery, I had to push my emotions aside. My youngest daughter needed me. She woke up crying that night, and as I comforted her, I felt numb, mechanically moving through our routines without really being present. Throughout the day, I kept my distress hidden from my children. They didn't need to carry the weight of adult problems. I picked up my older child from school, prepared dinner, and answered their innocent questions about their dad's whereabouts with a fabricated story of him working late. As the evening wore on, my initial anger shifted to concern. It was nearing 10 p.m., and there was still no sign of Willie. I called him repeatedly, but he didn't answer. Desperation led me to dial my sister, but she too remained unreachable. Exhausted and overwhelmed, I finally fell asleep, clinging to a sliver of hope that this was all just a nightmare. Morning brought a harsh reality. Willie's absence was glaringly obvious. His belongings were missing from our bedroom. A quick check confirmed my worst fears. Most of his things were gone from our home. He had left in the night without a word, without any attempt at closure. Stunned and heartbroken, I knew I had to prioritize my children. I got them ready, dropped the eldest off at school, and took my youngest to my mother's house. My mom immediately sensed that something was amiss given my distant demeanor. I struggled to keep up the facade as the morning progressed. The thought of raising 2 children on my own loomed large, And every time I snapped back to reality, the enormity of the situation weighed heavily on me. Eventually, my mother's patience wore thin. "Okay, I've had enough of your silence. What's going on?" she pressed. Gathering my courage, I started from where it all began. "Well, I found out Willie has been cheating on me." Her shock was palpable. "What? How do you know?" I sighed, the words heavy on my tongue. "I found another woman's underwear in our bedroom." As I recounted the details, the conversation opened a floodgate of emotions I'd been holding back, marking the start of a new uncertain chapter. When I confronted Willie about the unfamiliar underwear, he didn't respond, and then he just left. "He left? What do you mean?" my mom asked, bewildered. "When I woke up this morning, all his things were gone," I explained. The disbelief was still fresh. I didn't even have a chance to stop him. I fell asleep around midnight, and when I woke up, he had taken everything. "Oh my God, my poor girl. I'm so sorry this happened," my mom exclaimed, her voice filled with sorrow. "It gets worse," I continued, hesitating as I prepared to reveal the full extent of the betrayal. "Oh no, what happened? Do you know who Willie cheated on you with?" she asked, a sense of urgency in her voice. "You mean, do you know who he cheated with?" I corrected gently. "Yeah, I snooped through his things to find out. I normally wouldn't invade someone's privacy like this, but I had to know." "So who is it?" she inquired anxiously. "It's Lori," I said, the words tasting bitter as they left my mouth. "Excuse me? What? Are you serious?" she gasped, shock painting her features. "Yes, my sister. I called her to ask about it, and she was so casual about it," I continued, my voice shaky. "She said they were in love and believed she was the best for him, so she was going to keep being with him." "Oh my God, what has Lori done?" my mom lamented, shaking her head in disbelief. "I don't even know how you're going to get through this. You have 2 kids to raise, and now you need to find a job too. Look, why don't we just get some rest while I try to process this? I'll be here to help you, okay?" she offered, her tone reassuring. "Yeah, okay. Thanks, Mom," I agreed, feeling a bit relieved to have her support despite the chaos. Telling my mom wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I ended up sleeping while she took care of my youngest. When I woke up, I heard my baby crying and my mom yelling. I rushed out and saw her on the phone looking angry. She hung up and seemed surprised to see me. "I'm sorry about the noise," she apologized, but didn't elaborate further. I knew she had been giving Lori a piece of her mind. Over the next few days, Mom stayed with us. It was easier to manage with one person moving in rather than 3. Lori kept trying to contact our mom, but she asked me to block Lori on her behalf. It was comforting to have someone who understood my feelings and stood by my side through this turmoil. During a particularly lonely period, I learned from mutual friends that Willie and Lori had hastily married. The news broke just a day after Willie had deserted us. Our friends, concerned and puzzled by the sudden developments, reached out, sharing the details of the betrayal. It was humiliating, but their response brought some solace. They supported me wholeheartedly, choosing to cut ties with both Willie and Lori. It was painful to digest the fact that they had moved on so quickly, but perhaps I shouldn't have expected anything less given their previous actions. When I relayed this to my mom, her fury was palpable. Normally a pillar of calm, seeing her so incensed by my sister's actions underscored the gravity of the betrayal. It was comforting, however, to have her unwavering support, not just emotionally but financially as well. She went above and beyond, assisting me in securing job interviews to help regain my financial independence, now that Willie was no longer there to hinder my career. Managing day-to-day life with the kids was challenging but feasible. The hardest part was masking my sorrow when they inquired about their father. Despite the struggle, we persevered. About a week after Willie's departure, I received a letter from him. By then, my heart had hardened enough that I wanted nothing to do with his words, presumed apologies, or excuses. A week was far too long for him to reach out, especially after such a profound abandonment. In a moment of resolute anger, I burned the letter, a symbolic gesture of closing that chapter of my life. However, in quieter moments, curiosity gnawed at me. Part of me regretted not reading his words, wondering if there was any explanation that could make sense of the chaos he'd left behind. Sometimes I wished I had read the letter before consigning it to the flames, if only to know what he had attempted to say. Yet the decision was made, and I had to live with not knowing, focusing instead on rebuilding and moving forward for the sake of my children and myself. Amidst the turmoil, I often had to remind myself that nothing Willie could have written in that letter would alter my feelings toward him or undo the damage he caused. The next day, to lift our spirits, my mom and I took the kids to the fair. It was refreshing to immerse ourselves in the lively atmosphere, allowing ourselves to enjoy the moment and laugh. A welcome reprieve from the recent hardships. That evening, as we relaxed with a bottle of wine, I mentioned the letter to my mom. "Something came in the mail for me last night," I began. "Oh, what was it?" she inquired. Her curiosity piqued. "It was a letter from Willie," I replied. "What did it say?" she asked, expecting that I had read it. "I don't know. I didn't open it," I confessed. "You didn't open it? But why not?" "I just didn't want to deal with anything he had to say, so I burned it," I explained, perhaps more casually than I felt. "You burned it, Mia? What if it was something important, like divorce papers? The envelope didn't look official at all. I'm pretty sure it wasn't that," I reassured her. "Well, if you're sure, what do you think was in it?" she pondered aloud. "Maybe a weak apology, or perhaps he wanted his stuff back. I wouldn't be surprised," I speculated, trying to dismiss the nagging thoughts about its contents. "But how are you feeling about all of this now?" She shifted the focus back to my well-being. "Today was a good day. It's tough, especially when the kids keep asking about their dad. What do I even tell them?" I admitted, the weight of the situation momentarily clouding the day's joy. "It's slowly getting better, but only a little," I added. "As long as it's improving, I'm always here for you. And just so you know, I'm planning to cut ties with your sister. Everything I have will go to you and the kids," she stated firmly. "Oh, Mom, that means a lot. But are you sure? Lori is still your daughter," I reminded her, recognizing the magnitude of her decision. "I know you and Lori had your differences, but what she did is unforgivable. I raised both of you better than this, and Lori didn't care," she said resolutely. "She's no longer my daughter in my eyes." It was a harsh stance, and while I understood her position, I knew how difficult it must have been for her to arrive at this decision. Lori was still her child, and disowning one's child is a heart-wrenching choice to make. I felt a mix of gratitude and sadness, knowing the depth of my mother's support and the painful sacrifices it entailed. The thought of ever disowning my own children was unimaginable, and it only made me appreciate my mom's support even more. She was willing to make such a difficult decision for my sake, which filled me with gratitude. 5 days later, a sudden knock on my door interrupted the quiet routine I had settled into. I wasn't expecting anyone, and with my mom at work, visitors were a rarity. With caution, I'd opened the door just a crack to see two men dressed in black suits standing on my porch. "Can I help you?" I asked, peering out. "We are lawyers, and we have something for you," one of them replied, extending a note and then a check towards me. I cautiously accepted both, my eyes widening as I glanced at the check. It was made out to me for $920,000. Stunned, I stammered, "There must be some mistake." "There's no mistake," they assured me, urging me to read the note. The note began with the words, "Thank you for saving me." As I read further, I discovered it was from Amanda, my mother-in-law. She had tried to visit 5 days prior, but found no one at home. When she called Willie, he implied that he couldn't access the house because I had changed the locks. Sensing that something was off, Amanda pressed Willie until he confessed everything. Appalled by her son's behavior, Amanda decided to write me and her grandchildren into her will. In her note, she expressed her gratitude for my actions, which prevented her from entrusting her assets to Willie. She had been terminally ill and unfortunately passed away just the day before. Her final wish was to ensure that her daughter-in-law and grandchildren were well looked after. Tears streamed down my face as I absorbed the contents of the note. Amanda's unexpected kindness and the profound loss of such a supportive figure overwhelmed me. It was a bittersweet moment, realizing the extent of her faith in me and the magnitude of her final gesture. Amanda was an exceptional woman, known for her integrity and fearless spirit. This trait often put Willie on edge, but to me, it was a source of immense comfort. She remained steadfast, offering her unwavering support right until the end. Willie called shortly after Amanda passed away. Though I was prepared for a reconciliation attempt, I still opted to listen. "What's this all about?" he blurted out, wasting no time. "You ought to be more precise," I shot back, keeping my composure. When I asked, "Why weren't you at the house?" "I wrote you a note telling you to behave properly while my mom is here." "Yeah, the letter mentioned that," I said. "I never read it." "You torched it? It's all wrecked by you. Mom was supposed to help with her estate, but you've taken everything for yourself," he charged harshly. "Willie, that is incredibly hypocritical. You moved away from us and are now only contacting us financially. Luck isn't something you can influence. By shielding us, it's obvious that both your mother and I behaved in our own best interests." I replied, "Please don't contact me or the kids again," hanging up the phone with a strong sense of resolve. After that discussion, I acted quickly to get our separation approved. The divorce process proceeded smoothly, with me being granted exclusive custody of our children. Willie tried to contest Amanda's will in the hopes of securing a share of the bequest, but her documents blatantly favored me, so he was unable to succeed. Willie and Lori persisted in their attempts to get me to give in and share the fortune, but I refused to budge. Because of the inheritance's financial stability, I was able to set aside money for my kids' future education and make prudent investments to keep our family stable. This also made it possible for my mother to retire in comfort, and as the kids adapted to life without their father, I went back to work. When they're old enough to comprehend, I'll tell them the entire tale. Even if the events that transpired are still painful, I have hope for the future. Better times are definitely coming, and the future seems promising.